They knew the importance of what Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation was doing. It wasn't just for our generation. The best part of what Native Hawaiian Legal Corp does is that it will benefit our kids' kids, the next generations, the following generations.
NHLC has played a lead role in ensuring that those practices of our people, how to malama the aina, how to malama the language and the culture and the people, that those get to be continued even under this new area of law.
My father's name is John Melvin Agard. When I think about my dad, he was passionate about helping Hawaiians. He was very, very mindful of what he was doing was important. And you could see it.
Kawai Puna Prijin was the first ED, and he had a vision. And he did his very best to fulfill that vision, which was that there would be lawyers to represent Hawaiians when they needed it, to save their lands, to enable them to continue their customary and traditional ways of life. Randy Kalahiki was an interim executive director. And what was so beautiful about Randy is that in the style of Hawaiians, he brought the whole ohana in. His brother was there for him, his children, his grandchildren, everyone helped. And when we had no place to go, they found a place, the family came in, they painted it, they refurbished it. I'm really proud that the organization still exists. I'm very grateful to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs because it's been there for us from the very beginning and to this day. And, my prayer and hope is that we'll be able to partner into the future, that NHLC will be able to diversify its funding so that it's not completely dependent on any singular source. But I just want to express gratitude to OHA for being there for us all of these years.
My connection to NHLC is before that. The original name is Hawaiian Coalition of Native Claims. And my connection to that is through my father, the late Randy Kalahiki Sr. My father's connection to NHLC is one of 4 original board members, along with Gail Pridgin, Steve Morse, and Roy Ula Cavello. They founded it from the grassroots for Native Hawaiian rights at the time of Kaho'olawe. So it was a perfect timing when you formed it. Perfect timing. My father really wanted to do it for Native Hawaiian rights.
The first image that comes into my mind is Mrs. Winona Rubin. And she's not necessarily associated with NHLC, but she's one of these individuals who is like a bedrock. She was there. She not only provided the energy, but she had the skills. She was able to write grants. So Mrs. Winona Rubin, I have to pay tribute to her because I think she's really, really critical and pivotal. Melody McKenzie was my mentor, my predecessor. Melody, to this very day, I consider her a very dear and close friend.
I was offered a position as a law clerk for Chief Justice Richardson. I couldn't refuse that, so I went over there for a few years. And then I was approached by one of the board members from the newly named Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation and asked if I would come back on staff. And I did. And Boyce Brown was the executive director at that time. And so what Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation, NHLC, did and does to this day is advocate for our people in the courts, in the legislature, before administrative bodies, to ensure that the rights of Native Hawaiians are recognized and there's an advocate for those rights. And what that ultimately leads to is not only the protection of our people and our culture, but our aina, our land, and our wai, our water.
Hawaiians and Hawaii are an example to the rest of the world of how we could live in unity and ensure that resources are there for future generations, 7 generations down the line. The Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation has a lot of respect to pay to our lahui for the individuals and groups that have stepped up and allowed the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation to assist ensuring that Native Hawaiians are able to live in, their way of knowing and seeing, and are able to pass that on to the next generation.
We're still here. We're still standing here. We still have a relationship with our Aina. As my kumu said, you cannot go anywhere in Hawaii that has not already been traversed 1,000 times by our own people.
So for our family, we have a long-standing history of generations of fishing in an area in Uluoʻa called Ahihi and also Kina'u. And in the 70s, it was converted or designated as a natural area reserve by the state of Hawaii without any consultation with the Native Hawaiian community or people who had traditional customary practices in that area. And my grandfather, my father, and my uncles later worked in the 90s to gain access to that area because once it was designated as a natural area reserve, it became a no-take. For us, we are traditional Lawai'a. That is who we are. That is the traditional and customary practice that has been taught to us from our kupuna. And that is what ties us to our Aina and roots us in our place in Makena and Maui. And for us to continue those traditions means that we are able to pass on the knowledge, the generational knowledge that we are so fortunate to have to the next generation. And it's not only about fishing, it's about understanding this area, the intimate knowledge that my ohana has, and that we're able to perpetuate that for future generations. The services that Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation provides, and pro bono services in particular, are so crucial for our Native Hawaiian community because there's so many of us who, even myself as an attorney, I don't understand everything in the law, and Native Hawaiian law can be so complex. And for your average traditional customary practitioner would have a very hard time understanding the law. And so having a guardian or warrior stand up for them, for their rights, and take them through the process is, I think, very important. And that is how we will continue to push the envelope on Native Hawaiian law and to continue to have our rights exercised and perpetuated into the future.
So what was happening in our community was Kalaeloa Heritage and Legacy Foundation, which operates the Kalaeloa Heritage Park, had just lost their 40-year lease with the Hawaii Community Development Authority back in 2019. And as a result, we were facing the possible loss of access to the site where we would not be able to continue our Malama'aina activities. NHLC's assistance meant the world to us. We have no legal background. We were fighting like an uphill battle with a large state organization, definitely out of our depth, and we needed someone who was very ma'a to the legal ways, who had the deep knowledge of Hawaiian historical rights, native rights, as well as the Western ecosystem. And you guys were able to step up in it and accept us as clients. And we really, without you, we wouldn't be able to be where we are today.
Aloha, my name is Walter Riddy from the island of Molokai, and we're here to talk about Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. So in order to do that, we gotta go way back. And I've been involved with them since the beginning. What we're trying to do back 50 years ago was try to figure out how are we going to survive as Hawaiians on the island of Molokai. And we thought it was going to be easy, but it turned out that not only was it hard, but we needed a lot of legal help in order for us to succeed. In the mid-1970s, maybe 1978 or so, we got involved in trying to figure out how are we going to get protein in order for us to survive on Molokai. And of course, the answer was hunting. Molokai was controlled by Molokai Ranch, and all they had was gates and locks all over the place. So access became a very important issue for us in trying to feed our families. So in order to survive, the deer couldn't figure out how to read the signs that says no trespassing, and we had to follow the deer. So of course we ended up in court. And that's where Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation came in helping us figure out what rights do we have as Hawaiians for access. When we decided that we wanted to reestablish our fish ponds, we had a lot of problems with the Department of Land and Natural Resources because these were historic sites, and you cannot touch historic sites. These were wetlands, so you had to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers. The military said that these were navigable waters, so we needed legal help to figure out, no, these are not navigable waters, these are private property, they're called fish ponds. All those kinds of problems was really helpful when we had Native Hawaiian Legal Corp on our side. Mahalo to Native Hawaiian Legal Corp for helping us in this past 50 years.
We're so grateful to have worked with Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation on the protection of Nihoku. Nihoku is the caldera that gives our area Kilauea as its name. There's a subdivision that's creeping up the slopes of Nihoku, a luxury gated subdivision, which was put in the 80s. And at the time, our kupuna and the leaders of our community wanted to protect that mountain. They've always known it was important, always taken ohana there to gather. And so they negotiated a setback line that no houses could rise above as part of the conditions of this subdivision. And when we started to ask kupuna in our community, they remembered, and they had records in their garages. And so we brought those forth to the planning department. We had over 300 community testimony, all but about 6 opposed the home and opposed the development. And the county told us, the planning department told us we had to go to contested case. The issues at stake, have implications for all of Hawaii and for traditional and customary practices everywhere. And to be guided in that path by Native Hawaiian Legal Corp attorneys who are so knowledgeable of those issues and the legal precedents was a huge weight off our shoulders. We felt that they knew and loved the place and honored the place in the process.
My name is Loki Aloha, and I'm from Kona, Hawaii, and I am a kia'i loko, or fish pond guardian for Koloko Lokoi'a, which is a fish pond on the dry side of Hawaii Island. Yeah, if not for NHLC, I'll be honest, we probably wouldn't have even looked for legal representation, and we would have went straight to a physical standoff of some sort, because that is where the matter is at regarding Kona's freshwater. Litigation is the pre-medial step before something greater, which is a call for justice by the people for the Hawaii. It makes a difference to have Hawaiians, I think, that are attorneys that are living on these aina, that they're representing these issues. But the greater ability that we can hire Native Hawaiians to represent our issues in our wahi, the more powerful we are as a people. So recruit more Native Hawaiians from every wahi, and let's get going.
The mission of NHLC has gone through some iterations over the generations of its existence. It's been around for 50 years, and so the language has nuanced over time. I think the spirit of the mission has always stayed the same and endured, and advancing and perpetuating culture and identity in a legal capacity, putting yourself in positions for other people against odds that are often very, very overwhelming, and doing it not to win, often doing it not to make new case law, doing it to hold organizations and the government and different entities accountable to what the law actually says and has stood for many years, bringing equity and justice into communities that have been deprived that pretty systemically, and remaining humble in the process, putting clients first, not chasing headlines, chasing aloha and service. And I mahalo all the generations of people who have made that their purpose for any period of time while they were part of the NHLC Oana.
Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation's mission is to protect and advance Native Hawaiian identity and culture. And what our kupuna recognized when starting this organization 50 years ago is that achieving that mission was not going to be possible without legal advocates. When I went to law school, I didn't know that NHLC existed. And I remember graduating, entering into practice, and then learning about Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. And I was so excited that there was an organization where Native Hawaiian lawyers were fighting for Native Hawaiian rights. I went to a place where I was the only Native student in my entire law school class, and that there was a place where there was this well and center of Native advocacy. In the next 50 years, NHLC is going to continue that work. We're going to continue our legacy of seeking justice in those areas. We're also going to continue to work on what are the new things that our community really needs, like family law, like cultural property and intellectual property law. So what's going to be consistent is that we're going to continue to stand for Native Hawaiian rights. We're going to continue to be there for the lahui. What's going to change and adapt is the needs of our community, and we're going to adapt with it.